Good day, everyone. I'm Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Geary Cast, the Malaga fan podcast for all the Gearys out there. Saturday afternoon sees Real Oviedo come to La Rosaleda with some old familiar faces on the pitch and in the dugout for the Asturians. Javier Calleja's boys come to La Rosaleda on a good run of form, with club captain Santi Carzola prominent in that run. Malaga will be going in search of their third win of the season, having become the league's draw specialists. But for this jornada, they'll have their young starlets back from under-19 international duty. Perhaps Antonito and Aaron Ochoa Maloney can re-inject some youthful exuberance into the team. And speaking of an injection of youthful exuberance, let me introduce you to my Geary Cast co-host. Alex Ashmore is back after sitting out last week's international break. So I'll just check, Alex. Nice to have you back. You were not at FA headquarters. You were not in the running for the England job. Can we confirm that now?
Yes. No, I wasn't one of the 10 people that Mark Bullingham said that the FA interviewed, unfortunately. I think, yeah, if I had the 13,700 quid spare to do a UEFA Pro license, I have a feeling I'd probably spend it on a nice holiday somewhere else. So, yeah, I was not in the running, but happy with the choice that we've gone for as England head coach.
Oh, you're so woke, Alex, with this, coming in. I think Thomas Tuchel's a bit mad, but I really like Thomas Tuchel. He's fun, I think, and a very good manager. If a bit problematic, eventually, that he does seem to lose dressing rooms quite easy, doesn't he? But I don't support the teams that he manages, and I know I'm not going to say anything anti-English as a Welshman, but I am very curious to see how he does. I do, like I said, I really like him. Actually, a great shout out for a podcast, the Heroes and Humans podcast, which Simon Cooper does, very famous football writer. They did an amazing episode on him a few months ago, and they analysed his career and stuff and sort of his zany side. Definitely go check that out if you want to hear about, I don't know, a bit more of off the pitch Thomas Tuchel and how that links to on the pitch. But anyway, this is not the Guardian Football Weekly. We're not here to talk about England and, the big boys like that. We're here to talk about the Segunda and more specifically Malaga Club de Football. Alex, this is we're digitally hanging out here. Obviously, we, in person hung out last weekend for the Cadiz game. Obviously, me and Chris did the review show this week. So if you want to hear our views on the Cadiz game from last weekend, go and check out the review show from earlier in the week. But we watched it together in the Peña Bar in Marbella. Review of the Peña Bar.
I quite liked it. It was quite a nice, it had a character to it, and walked in there. It took me a minute or so to get used to just taking the beers out of the fridge. But yeah, no, it was a nice bar, and good to see our friend of the pod, Ariel, there as well. Yes. And it was a good game as well. I'm sure you guys would have said much of the same as well on the review. But yeah, it was a very enjoyable game.
To be honest with you, I don't think we did mention that was a good game, definitely, and it was a good 2-2 draw, and obviously a good comeback. But I think we touched on it a couple of match days ago, but we sort of joked last year and at the start of this year, we're going to miss the El Pozo, the well, because, the football was quite a bit chaotic down there at times and there's no VAR. But to be honest with you, considering how many games we've drawn this season, it's always been like all the games have been really good in general, haven't they? There's not been many flops so far.
No, it's been entertaining. I think also, the Granada one's a perfect example, really. I think that was right to the end, really. It was, for the neutral, really good.
The Albacete is the one for me. That was 10 men, etc.
I won't talk about the Elche game. I think that the less said about that, the better. But yeah, I think it's also I think I heard someone in the Peña Bar say this on Saturday, that sometimes it takes the other team to score to get us, to react in that way. And I think it hasn't been that case this season. It felt like we have tried from the offset. Sometimes there have been games where, yes, we've been slow to start, but I feel like we've definitely been a bit more proactive this season. I don't know how you've seen it, but it's been entertaining to watch this season, I think, definitely.
I think what we need there is we need the Marbella Pena Bar podcast, by the sound of it, with that sort of insight. But yeah, and people just saying, "Oh, give me a minute while I go to the fridge and get another beer." Because yes, as Alex touched upon, you don't get served beer there. You walk to the fridge and take it out. And Alex was a bit, you're a bit tentative at first, weren't you? And I said, "Go get yourself a beer," and you were like, and then I had to tell you, "Go on, go again." But what, Alex? Let's stick with your weekend, because obviously, just before we talked about football. How was Marbella?
It was good. It was nice to have a week off. I love Madrid, but sometimes nice just to get out, change the scenery, and go to the beach, have some nice food, spend some time with my mum, and yeah, it was a nice week, relaxing week. Back to it ahead of a busy month of football with El Clasico, Champions League. So yeah, it was a lovely week. Shame about the weather towards the end, actually.
Gary Malaga.
Yes.
It's not just your bow tie gig now.
No, it was a good week, but yeah, shame about the weather towards the end. I felt like I was back in England for especially the last 2 days of my stay, but it was a good week.
Yeah, me and Chris did a lot of weather chat on the last pod, so I'll move on very quickly. But we will stick with your weekend, Alex, because it does sort of link you. Obviously, one of the big bits of news over the past week has been Malaga's cup draw, which was is going to be played against Estepona. So for those that don't know, Estepona is pretty much like the next big place to Marbella. So it's not really far from Malaga. It's probably, I don't know, an hour drive, maybe just a little bit more. It's quite a very popular, touristy town, but maybe not so much as Marbella and Malaga and the places sort of in between. But yeah, the Malaga were drawn to play away there. I've been to the ground there to watch Estepona play. It's quite a modern ground. It's next to, by the way, the school I work at has their sports day in the athletic stadium next to it. So it's a bit of it's got some link to the Olympics. It's got Olympic rings on quite a few things, but Malaga will not be going there, as we discussed on last week's, the last podcast. And we did sort of hint that we thought we knew where it'd be played. And it has been confirmed now that Malaga will be traveling all the way down the coast, almost into Gibraltar, but just stopping before it, because they'll be playing at La Linea, where, at the home of Linense, or Bologna, as they like to be called. Alex, on your week down in Marbella, you went to watch a game at Linense. So how did you find it down there?
It was nice. I think I perhaps had some negative preconceptions of La Linea as a town, unfairly perhaps, as Joe Faint quickly quashed when I was talking to him. I met up with Joe Faint, friend of the pod, before the game for a few beers. And yeah, it was a lovely town, right by the sea, as you said. Literally, for those of you who aren't aware, look on the map. It is a stone's throw from Gibraltar. You are literally on the border.
But don't throw a stone, because that's a runway.
Yeah. Maybe don't throw a stone. Yeah. In terms of distance, it's close. So yeah, no, it was a lovely town and a very nice stadium, very state of the art, and good. I think general good facilities. It seems like. Shame about the result, obviously, at the weekend. The Linense lost 2-0 to UCAM Murcia, but it was a good day out, nice weather. Very picturesque stadium. If you're sitting on perhaps one side, you can see the Rock of Gibraltar right behind the stand. It's lovely. So yeah, no, very, very modern stadium. I think it's about 10,000, if I'm not mistaken, roughly 10, 11,000. So quite a fairly big stadium. And yeah, very, good viewing all round. And I think apart from perhaps the distance away from, it's only about an hour from, maybe 45 minutes from Estepona, and sort of hour and a half from Malaga. But apart from the distance, I'd say it's quite a good choice for a neutral choice of ground. Obviously, Estepona being the home team in this instance.
Yeah, again, we did the preview show last week, and we did a lot of chat about Costa del Sol ground hopping. But I was a bit worried about this stadium, because I went to the old stadium, which is in the same place. and it was like a big open bowl. And like you said, like when you see these lists of most, I don't know, 20 grounds you've got to visit before you die, Gibraltar's always in there. And obviously Gibraltar is a bit quirky because it's sort of underneath the rock. But I always preferred the ground in La Linea because you had a view of the rock. I've got like, when I went there, it was an amazing place to watch football. So I'm really looking forward to going to the new ground eventually, though, because like you said, it does look really well done. Actually, I was really worried about it, but it does look like it does like have a bit of character to it. It's like I think I said on the podcast the other day, I will be in Barcelona, so I will not be going. And to be honest with you, I think I wouldn't have gone anyway, because I don't know if you've seen this, Alex. The ticket pricing is crazy. It's 30 or 40 euros.
It's bonkers, really, to be honest, to be charging is this officially the second round of the Copa del Rey, or is this the third?
I don't know, actually. That's a good, because I know there has been games, but I'm not sure if they count qualifiers. So
well, for an early, whether it's first or second round, I think I don't understand it, but I can obviously guess why they've charged these prices. I think they're trying to capitalize on the fact that they know Malaga will bring a few. I don't actually know if we heard anything about the allocation yet. I don't think there's been any indication as to how many tickets Malaga will get.
I don't know if people are going to be that bothered about it now. I think if it was in Estepona, there's a bit of charm to it. And I get, like, it does make sense of being down there. And I don't know what's gone wrong with Estepona's ground. Like I said, it looks quite modern. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess that the people that I think are going to go would be people that are Malaga fans and like live down that way, because it's probably the amount of money they'd spend on, I don't know, transport or petrol to Malaga anyway. And it's a crazy amount of money. Like, I don't know if they're trying to, like, it's not like we're Barcelona or Real Madrid or anything. And or even like a top league team. I don't understand it myself. I guess they're just trying to milk anything they can because they've obviously got some issues with their ground, and I don't know, maybe they need money for that. So I don't know. I just quite unsavory, I thought. But I will be, I don't know, I'll be in some random bar in Barcelona by then, having watched San Andreu in the cup the night before. But anyway, enough of that. To be honest with you, this links quite nicely, and I didn't even mean this. Let's go back to Catalonia, Alex. The other sort of bit of news, but there's not much to say about it really, is I've even forgotten the guy's name. Someone quite high up in Malaga, though, was saying the commemorative shirt is on its way. It's going to be a tribute to the Antonito goal, which I don't know. How do you turn that goal into kit form? Is it going to be, I don't know, draped with like Tarragona fans, just like, well, Tarragona players lying on the pitch despairing, and Antonito in the middle? I don't know. What are they going to do?
It could be one of those Christmas jumpers, maybe, with a load of baubles hanging off, but they're actually balls, as a joke about all the balls that go on the pitch. I feel like that could be quite a good seller.
Alex, I'll give you that.
But yeah, perhaps maybe a sort of, you see those shirts that have the sort of, I guess, drawing like of a player, a sort of penciled drawing kind of thing on the shirt, maybe of the celebration or something like that. I think it would probably sell, like the anniversary shirt they did back in April. Yeah. So I don't see why not. I think it's a cool idea, and what I would like to perhaps see is maybe some fan input. Maybe they get some designers or stuff to send some ideas in. I feel like it could be quite cool to see what people come up with. But yeah, a nice idea.
Do you think Kevin will get a tattoo of the commemorative shirt commemorating Antonito? Seems to cover himself in that sort of stuff. Like I know some people have been quite cynical about it, and I think in like one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in, we sort of joked we're getting worse than Napoli, because Napoli always seem to have a third shirt and commemorative shirts. But this is a bit of a one-off, isn't it? But yes, I will see. It might be crap, but we will wait and see. But it's coming. Apparently, it's on its way. But yeah, just one other little bit of news. It's not really news. It's more Lauren Juarez did an interview with Arquitectos La Liga, which is a podcast I didn't know about. I'm trying to listen to more Spanish language football podcasts. So I did listen to some of this as well. And I have to listen to Spanish language podcasts in short bursts, though, because I don't understand absolutely everything. I do zone out a bit at times, but yeah, it seems to be a podcast. They just interview people that are quite high up in football clubs, which sounds quite interesting, or I don't know, maybe not interesting now I say it out loud. But yeah, he said some cool things. He spoke a lot about like our youth identity and like making sure the Sport City is up to scratch so we don't lose players to like Sevilla and Betis like we have in the past. So I think he actually said Villarreal as well, because famously lost a lot to them. He talked about trying to create this sense of belonging. But I think the quote that jumped out at me the most about perhaps the culture of the club, certainly in the dressing room, and I hadn't really thought it, and I wrote it down actually. He said, "This model, young people coexist with more experienced players, getting the veterans not to see the young ones as a threat, but rather that they are part of the team too. They all saw each other as teammates." And I was like, actually, yeah, that does happen a bit where the older players are usually a bit threatened, but we don't seem to have that when I thought about it.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, understandably so, players coming towards the end of their career, perhaps, they see this young lad. I mean, it's probably happened with Aaron Ocho-Maloney, with Antonito, that perhaps they think, he's effectively coming for my job. So I think you want to, like he said, create that atmosphere where the older players are, educating and trying to teach the young players the ways of being a professional footballer, because it's not just on the pitch, it's off the pitch as well. So, yeah, I think obviously the academy is going in the right direction. I drove past it a couple of times last week, and it seems to be coming on more and more. They're playing games there now, and it's obviously produced some really good players over the years. So all really positive to see that they're moving forward with it and putting it as at the front of their priorities, perhaps, or one of the top 3 priorities for the club, because when we don't have a lot of money, we have to invest in the youth.
Yeah, and I think I touched upon it on the podcast with Chris earlier in the week, that when last season we were talking about Pellicer a lot, and obviously we had our ups and downs. I very much defended him, but I know I sort of appreciated, there were times where results weren't going our way and football wasn't great, and we had sort of bumps in the road with him. But I still think like his greatest attribute is creating that culture, because these guys upstairs obviously talking about it, but they're not on the training pitch doing it. And obviously it's Pellicer and his staff that are creating this sort of culture where, I don't know, we've talked about it before, that these young players, and when you read interviews with people like Kevin and David Larrubia, they seem to be buzzing to go into work basically and to train. It's I think that's one of Pellicer's greatest feats as our manager, as much as getting us promoted. Well, they go together, don't they? They're symbiotic. They're creating that culture, led to us being able to trust, the players being able to trust each other. And, this kid will score a 122nd minute goal to get us promoted. But
yeah, I think also it's quite often the case with managers, they maybe have that fear that they don't want to put the youngsters in, because obviously football is a results-based business, and we've seen how ruthless clubs can be when it comes to sacking manager. Even Malaga, with Pepe Mel, for example, that it's one of those things. It could be brave, sometimes borderlines on stupidity, but I commend Pellicer for wanting to play those players. And as you said, we've had some really good moments from those young players coming through.
Yeah. So obviously those young players led us to the Segunda División, and we're talking about games in that league this season, which is jolly good fun. So let's get into the home game that is coming up this weekend against Real Oviedo. As always, we are joined by our Segunda expert to give us a little insight into the club. So let's start with Alex Fitzpatrick giving us the lowdown on this week's opponent, Real Oviedo.
Malaga host Real Oviedo on Saturday afternoon. An improving Real Oviedo. They got only 4 points in the first 4 games this season and then have picked up 11 from the following 5. And in that 5-game run, they've won at home and drawn away, the English method, as it's known in Spain. So they are pretty solid on their travels. Javi Calleja, their coach, is known as being pretty pragmatic, although they have produced some really attractive football across that run of 5 games, including in that 3-2 win at home last weekend against Almeria. Oviedo are one of the teams in the league on 15 points. There are 5 of them, those 5 teams stretching out between 3rd position and 8th position in the table. They've lost only once away from home, and that was against rivals Sporting Gijón. So they are pretty decent on their travels. They'll play a 4-2-3-1 or maybe a 4-1-4-1 formation. And it will include a couple of key players, of course, one familiar to everybody, which is ex-Malaga player Santi Carzola, who is in the twilight of his career, but still putting in some fantastic performances and a real important player in terms of the creation of Real Oviedo. They'll also have Ilyas Chaira, who's on loan from Girona, out on the wing. He can play either on the left or the right, and he is incredibly dangerous and in good form, so watch out for him. Remember, this is the first of 3 games in a week for both clubs, so expect changes. From an Oviedo perspective, though, they have one of the strongest squads in the division, so even with changes, they will still have a pretty strong 11 out there. Will the 11 include Luismi? If it does, then for Malaga, then of course he will come up against his former club. He left Real Oviedo last summer. A tough one this weekend for Malaga, but they are at home on Saturday afternoon. That's Malaga against Real Oviedo.
And thank you, as always, to Alex Fitzpatrick. If you want to learn or hear more about Malaga, Real Oviedo, and the 20 other clubs in the Spanish Segunda División, definitely go and check out the Spanish Segunda show with him and Liam, where they cover all the clubs in the league. But for now, me and Alex are going to stick with Malaga v Real Oviedo. So just quickly, Alex, before we go to the sort of football inside of things, like obviously there is some things I knew there from my sort of like little dig into Real Oviedo, but I did not know that we've talked about on this podcast a lot this season about us drawing our away games, try and win our home games. I did not know in Spain that's called the English method. I don't know if you did.
No, it's a new thing for me as well. Good to learn something new.
In Germany, they call it if you have 2 games a week. Actually, I don't know. Do you know what they call that?
I don't know, actually. What do they call it?
They call it an English Woche, which is an English week.
Okay.
Because obviously in England, we have quite a lot of, especially as you know, as a Football League fan, sorry, a previous Football League fan. I'm sorry to get that. But a small club that plays twice a week. It's, yeah. But anyway, apart from, a bit of semantics and linguistics around Spanish football, anything else jump out at you from Alex's review of them there?
Yeah, I mean, from that and just having a quick read up of Oviedo and having seen how their season's gone, and I think it feels like they're a team that's going to be hard to beat. He said they've only lost once away from home. They had a slow start, but picked up some good form recently. They're obviously sitting just outside the playoffs. I think, is it 8th they're in, if I'm not mistaken?
I think they're in the playoffs, to be honest with you.
Maybe they are. But yeah, I think hard to beat is 8th. Just having a look here at the table. They are equal on points with Mirandés, who are 6th, but behind on goal difference. They've scored 9, conceded 9 this season. So I think perhaps solid is the word to describe Real Oviedo. Perhaps not the most extravagant. They're not going to go and win games 3 or 4-0, but obviously he did say they had that emphatic or entertaining win against Almeria. So, yeah, I think hard to beat, away from home, solid, only losing to Gijón. I mean, I don't think anyone will blame them too much. Losing the derby, Sporting obviously starting the season quite well as well in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think a side that's going to be tough to break down, but Malaga do have the tools to break teams down. They have some exciting young players. We have a certain Sergio Castel. We have Dione. We have the youngsters, as you said, coming back. So I think it would be a good tactical battle.
To be honest with you, Alex, I just can't stop thinking of hard-fi now because you kept saying hard to beat. I don't know. Are you too young for hard-fi? I don't know.
I am. I think that goes over my head.
Their big song was Hard to Beat. You must know Hard to Beat.
Perhaps if I heard it. I'm not very good with song names.
I'll lower it a bit. Do you know Living for the Weekend?
I know the name.
Alex, this was like they were cool when I was a teenager. I love Hard-Fi and awful live. Actually, I think he's listening, but me and Liam of the Spanish Segunda show, I've had this very conversation about our love of Hard-Fi, but how bad they are live. But anyway, so yeah, Real Oviedo are now the Hard-Fi team in my head. But yeah, like you said, they've sort of had a bit of a resurgence in the sort of second half of the first 9 games of the season, if that makes sense. Yeah, they've got one less goal than us, but like you said, they're quite solid at the back. By the way, I'm going to double check this very quickly, and I had to really double check this to the extent I've double checked it again. It's nothing to do with these two teams, by the way. Have you seen Mirandez's record in regards of goals for and against?
Yeah, 6 goals for and 3 against is mad.
It's absolutely crazy. Where I saw it and I thought, oh, I must not be on an updated league table. And then it's like, what? Yeah, so I just want to give that.
I think everyone discredited them. I had them in my bottom 4, I think, predicting towards the beginning of the season.
I think everyone did, didn't they? Even, I even listened to the experts over on the Spanish Segunda show, and I think they did as well. So yeah, they've been a turn up for the books. We've got to talk about him, Alex. I'm going to say this now, that one of my favorite things watching live football, especially as like a ground hopper where, perhaps I don't have as much of a vested interest, is I love watching like old, like elite players sort of dropping a level and like having fun. So I'm really, really excited to see Santi Carzola do that. So there's a part of me that wants him to play really well and like put a bit of a show on, but that like we still win. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a neutral, Santi Carzola is one of those players that is just a joy to watch. You see him not only at Malaga, obviously at Arsenal, some of the free kicks that he scored. He's such a brilliant player, such a technical player. It looks effortless when he's on the ball, and he's been, I think he said it today. He was only at Malaga for a season, I think, but fond memories of that time, and I think Malaga fans will have very fond memories of him in a Malaga shirt. He's a fantastic player, and like you said, those players dropping down. Obviously, Lucas Perez at Deportivo La Coruña. There's been some rumours of Samuel Castillo.
I saw Pablo Hernandez play for Castellon, and that was good fun.
Yeah,
the absolute king, by the way, and it's not dropping down the level. And I think this is what cemented me loving this. Was again, it was a particularly bad era for Welsh football, but I did go to watch Wales at the Millennium Stadium play Finland, and Jari Litmanen, I think, was 41, and he just stood in the middle of the pitch and he just tore us apart, like without moving. It was incredible to watch. I love things like that, but.
I think a joy to watch. Obviously there are rumours of Samuel Castillejo potentially coming back to Malaga. It never happened, unfortunately, in the summer. But players of that ilk, Santi Carzola, Lucas Perez, you look at them doing what they're looking. You're looking at them what they're doing at this age, and it is unbelievable. And like you, I know I want Malaga to win. I know I could do with the lack of, or maybe a stress-free game, as stress-free as possible. But if he scores a free kick and plays nice and we win 2-1, I'll take that.
Yeah, to be honest, my sort of take with Santi was always, because saw him play against Swansea a couple of times for Arsenal. I always had a bit of a theory with him that I think, in regards of like ball control and like retaining the ball, he is like as good, or certainly was as good as like Messi. Not Messi. Iniesta. I had Barcelona, but I think the one thing Iniesta could do it, and then he had that like dynamism to sort of pop away and go, which I don't think Santi has as much. But like in regards of ball control, he is like incredible, and I'm sure he'll still have that. The only thing I didn't like about his time at Malaga, and of course it was before I had anything to do with Malaga, really, but obviously I've seen lots of footage of him. Is he wore number 12? Like, come on.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. That's a goalkeeper's number, or I don't know, really.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's one of those shirts. It's one of those shirts sometimes clubs retire, don't they? Because they say the fans are number 12. That's a nice thing some things do. But yeah, I did have quite a nice time earlier this afternoon. I thought, well, I'll just watch some Santi Carzola videos. He scored some very good goals. And
fun fact, actually, for those who are interested, at my Sporty TV, we interviewed Victor Boniface, and he said, we asked him, what players do you watch on YouTube? Santi Carzola was one of them.
Oh, right. That's interesting, because I do not associate him with Santi Carzola. Like
neither do I.
Well, that's cool. That's probably a good, like, if you're a forward, ball control and bringing it down and making space. I suppose he's quite a good example. Yeah, I'm sure. Just quickly, we mentioned the other two Malaga old boys. Well, I've got two here. So obviously the guy in the dugout, Javier Calleja, played for Malaga as part of a promotion team. I remember like him. I'd sort of forgotten a bit about him, really. But I remember when he was like Villarreal manager the first time around, because they brought him back, that he did a really good job there. And they were a bit like, I think Alex said in his bit, that sort of renowned as being a bit of a pragmatic manager. But yeah, he's played quite a lot of games for Malaga. Do you know the other ex-Malaguista, Alex? A bit less obvious, this one, I'll be honest with you.
Is this in the Oviedo squad?
Yes. Well, he's been starting for Oviedo.
Oh, God.
A deep dive.
I think off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, no.
It is the goalie, Aaron Ascandel, who didn't play for Malaga, but he played for Atletico Malagueño quite a lot, actually. So he's there. So we might have two Aarons on the pitch. How exciting. So I don't know why that's exciting, but yeah, it's going to be a tough game. We perhaps let's turn to Malaga, unless you have anything you really want to throw out there about Oviedo.
No, I think, it's interesting to see these players. I mean, there are a few, like I think Alfonso Herrero, having a look at his career path. He played for Marbella, and then he was at Real Madrid, I believe, as well. Like, so these goalkeepers, I think sometimes you forget about. And if you'd have given me 3 days, I wouldn't have guessed that Aaron Escandel played for Atletico Malagueño. So yeah, no, it's interesting to see that.
Well, the first Malaga away game I went to was at Real Oviedo, and Alfonso Herrero was on the bench for Real Oviedo that night.
There you go.
There you go. He's quite a well-travelled boy, actually, is Alfonso. He's you don't have to travel anymore, Alfonso. Home is here. Anyway, let's go back to home, and let's talk about Malaga. I touched upon it in the intro, and we talked about it earlier in the week that Antonito and Aaron Ochoa Maloney have been playing for their national teams under 19 levels. Just to quickly go back to something we brought up on the podcast earlier in the week, I said Antonito had an assist from a corner because it was an own goal. I don't know have you seen the own goal, Alex?
I have. I mean, it all sort of, it was a bit of a blur. You can't really see where the ball goes. At first, I think quite a lot of people were saying, "Wow, what a goal this was!"
Yeah.
Shame that it must have got a touch on the way through, but you couldn't tell from the angle that I saw it.
Yeah, it was one angle. So yeah, for those who haven't seen it, it is, it's, some people called it an Olympico goal, scored from a corner. And it does look like he scores from a corner. And even like the players, the way they celebrate, it's as if he has. But yeah, apparently it hits a defender. So I felt a bit of a spoil sport, because I think Luke in our WhatsApp group shared it and said like, what a goal, Antonito. And I had to go, oh, well, sort of, but actually it wasn't given to him. But yeah, but basically, I suppose my question is, Alex, they've they've both played. They've not played like the whole 3 games away, but they've both played significant minutes. Do you feel one or both, or should come back in the team, or should we persist with sort of the players we had against Cadiz?
I think, to be honest, I think generally I'd stick with the players we had against Cadiz. Maybe you could take out a David Larrubia or a Lucas Sangali, perhaps, if you wanted to. I think generally I was impressed with Kevin in the first half. I think he got in good areas. Obviously, you guys would have gone into depth about this, but I think out of the starting lineup, I wouldn't change a whole lot. But I would like to see one of those two come in. I also would like to see, I know this may be a bit unrealistic and it probably won't happen, but I'd like to see Sergio Castel start up top with Dione. So, yeah.
I will call this, because I know Nick has championed this a lot. And again, as I said on the review show, I think we've all championed it a bit, but he's claiming it. So, okay, he can have it. Are we calling this the Mike Bassett theory, the 4-2? 4-2. And to be fair, it will be very much a 4-2 with Castel and Dione up front. Would you be up for that?
I'd love it. I mean, I hope it's also not the case. For those of you who've seen the film will know the bit where Mike Bassett's listening to the England fan suggestions, and at the end he tells them to sod off after hearing their suggestions. I'm hoping Paythair's not like that with us when we say Dione and Castel up front. But yeah, I can see why maybe he wouldn't do it. Perhaps a lack of pace up front, maybe too much. They are similar-ish players in terms of their stature. But I would be very much up for it, even if it is just for a half, just to see how it goes.
Well, it was funny, like when, one of the things I've got written here was to ask you about Sangali. So for those that didn't listen to the review show, spoiler alert, our Chumbo was hockeying because he had a nightmare. But I did highlight, I thought Sangali wasn't much better. So I was sort of thinking, like, if Aaron's not fully... Like, I don't know if he's not quite ready. We should say, by the way, like the word is that Aaron Ochoa Maloney and Antonito are like available. They're fit. There's no problem there. It's just we're unsure after international duty. But I was trying to think who else could play in midfield, because I think Izan and Manu, they're going to start now. I think Izan Moreno, I think we said in the pod earlier in the week, was excellent. Sangali was not. And I thought, do we bring Juanpe in? And I was like, it's not that interesting. And then, yeah, basically all roads kept leading to maybe we should try the 4-4-2. Maybe this is it, because Manu and Izan are quite defensive anyway. Play sort of Kevin and Larrubia sort of out on the wing, but maybe like cutting inside a bit. And yeah, I don't know. I've talked myself into it a little bit. And then we've got, like, if Castel's not fully fit or, hasn't found his fitness yet, we've got this young whippersnapper, playing for Atletico Malagueño, can't stop scoring goals. Chuck on Chupete, because I'm not chucking Rocco on. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is the game. If you're going to do it, Pellicer, this is the one. Although I think it's just us calling for it. I've not heard any other fans calling for it. I've not seen it on social media or anything. But I guess, Alex, I'll just ask you the same thing. And sorry, just one other thing I should address here, because Alex Fitzpatrick did put it in his bit about Real Oviedo, saying about Luismi playing against his old club and sort of being unsure whether Luismi will play. I think it's been confirmed that he is out injured still for this game. But what would you? I've sort of decided for you almost. Would you drop Sangali?
Yeah, I think he's, of the midfielders, I think he's probably the ones that we can afford to. Like you said, I think we were saying this before the game, the midfield three that started at the weekend against Cadiz was quite defensive with Itamarino, Molina and Sangali. So I think just to take one of those out and then have Kevin, David Rubia and perhaps an Antonito or an Aaron Ochoa Maloney, I think would be good. I do also think perhaps, it's not panic stations at all. I'm just saying at some point it'd be nice to start turning these wins into draws. These draws into wins.
I was going to say,
Alex. So yeah, I think a little bit more attacking prowess, in the midfield, or like we talked about, playing the two up top. But yeah, I think I would be quite happy with taking Sangali out for one of the two youngsters.
Yeah. Because there's a part of me that does want to give Juanpe another go just because he played so well in that first game, but it doesn't seem to be happening. I guess the other question, Alex, and I'm not saying this is there is an obvious answer to this for me, but Joaquin was really bad on the weekend, but I thought he was really good at Deportivo away. Do you drop him after such a bad performance? Do you think it's perhaps good for him to be dropped? Or
it's a difficult one. I think yes. I mean, you look at the options that could come in instead. I mean,
well, let's be honest, Alex. It's option.
Yeah, I mean, it is Danny Sanchez or no one else, really. I think. Oh yeah, sorry, Puga. Yes, Danny Sanchez more the other side. Yes, I'm getting my players.
Unless you want to go with my screwball idea I've been talking about for 3 years now and playing Kevin as a wing back.
I wouldn't be opposed. No, to be honest,
I keep laughing at it and I go, actually, it makes sense to me. But
I think, to be honest, I really like Puga. I think he offers a little bit more going forward. I was really impressed with him against Cadiz when he came on. I think the game changed a little bit, and I think that was a big catalyst as to why Malaga pushed on and got the draw. I think that right-hand side, we were definitely pushing, and that's where the ball, I think both of the goals came, although they weren't crosses as such. They both came from the right-hand side, I think. If I remember correctly, it's been a while now since the two goals, but yeah.
The first one came from the left, to be honest.
Yeah, the second one, yes.
Oh, sorry, the other way around. Sorry, the first came from the right. But actually, to be honest, it might have been Puga with the assist.
Yeah, and I think he offers, and he's a decent defensive fullback, but I think he just offers so much more going forward. So yeah, I'd like to see Carlos Puga come into the starting lineup.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think that's the sensible thing. But as I've said in this podcast before, I got sort of indoctrinated by the Joaquin Gabilondo fan club in Baracaldo, so I'm always going to back my boy Joaquin. But yes, if I was speaking in my head, I think Carlos Puga should be in there. But yeah, I don't know, Alex. Apart, we talked about them playing quite well in the second half, and actually we spoke in the podcast, Malaga playing pretty well in the first half, to be honest with you, and being quite unlucky to go in 2 down. Is there any other sort of glaring things you would change? I talked about on the podcast earlier in the week that the jury's still out on him a bit, but I really like Alex Pastor. Would you keep him instead of Aina?
Yeah, I think I like him. I think perhaps he's had his faults, as I think all defenders will at some point throughout the season. I would keep him. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong against Cadiz. I think that it's good to have Einar on the bench. He's a very good player to have to come off the bench if you need it. We saw him in the playoffs. I think it was the second game or the first game against Tarragona, or the second game against Celta Fortuna.
Yeah, it was the second game against Celta Fortuna where he turned into second Einar.
Yeah, I mean, he was fantastic. So yeah, I think he's good to have on the bench, and yeah, I think stick with Pastor for now. I don't think he did anything particularly wrong last time out.
Well, and also I think we talked on earlier in the week that arguably if it wasn't for Alex Pastor, we would have lost the game because he made that heroic tackle to stop a certain goal as well. So I think he's a reward enough there. And just before we wrap things up, I think you sort of answered this for me already. That we keep saying about, we're doing well away from home in a way. We keep drawing. We don't lose. We don't win. And everything's going along nicely. I think I'm right in saying, and I think I said earlier in the week, that we're 3 points off the playoffs, but 3 points off relegation. Is there any doubts creeping in? Because I'll say right now, for me, no, I'm quite happy with our performances, and I feel like there's been other seasons where you can see the wobble coming, and I can't at the moment. I think we're getting better, if anything.
No, to be honest, I've been thoroughly impressed. I think, yes, there are lots of things to work on. There are things we can improve on. that was always going to be the case. We're a newly promoted side. I really don't think we should forget that. I don't think we can. We can't forget that, because I think sometimes when you get promoted, yes, we know Malaga belong at this level. Belong is always the wrong word. I hate using that word, but a club of this size, we're used to seeing them at this level. So perhaps the expectations get a bit skewed when it comes to how we think we should do come the end of the season. But to be honest, I don't think there's been many of the 9 games we've played so far where we've been outclassed. Elche probably being the only real.
Yeah, I'd say Elche is the only one we've been outclassed, and we all held our hands up. Even our manager, our players held their hand up. But apart from that, we've been competitive in every single game. Well, obviously we have, because we've only lost one game. But,
And I think also the fight has been something that's good to see, where we go behind and we don't give up. I think quite often when you get players, especially at this level, if you get some young players, sometimes it can be quite daunting when you go behind, especially at a big stadium. Yes, it wasn't the biggest crowd, but a big stadium like Cadiz or going to Granada, a big derby, sometimes the pressure can get to you. But these young lads and the more experienced players, they fight to the end, and we've shown a lot of grit. So not worried at all, but I think, we've had, this will be the case as the season goes on, but I think we've had enough time now to perhaps work towards what we think is our best 11 and improve on some of the things that we haven't done so well. But, overall, as a start, solid base. If you'd have said after 9 games we'd be 12th with 12 points, I would have bitten your hand off.
Yeah, I'd say solid base, but also, like you've just said, like when I first started going with Malaga, once they were a goal down, that was it. Like, it was done, and they might get an equaliser, but you always felt there's something coming. Where like now there is a culture of like we're not dead and buried, and that's part of our, or not the club. That's part of this team's identity, which is great. And obviously, we can point, like we always talk about the Antonito goal. Our goalie scored a goal to get us in the playoffs last year, which I think sometimes gets overlooked. And there was quite a few incidents last year, but yeah, this year we seem to be even better at it, and long may that continue. So we'll start wrapping things up there. Alex, I'll just ask you, because obviously I'm going to La Rosaleda to watch Malaga. Do you have any Spanish football plans this weekend?
I don't actually. I've got the weekend off, which is nice. I'll probably be watching it at home. I think next week is obviously the big one with the El Clasico, so it's nice to have a weekend off, and I'll get to watch Malaga and hopefully 3 points.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with a live stream yet. I don't think there's going to be one, but don't hold me to that, because I think Luke's still away and things like that. So watch this space. I will also say as well, next week, I don't really know how we're going to work next week, how the pod's going to work, because obviously we play 2 games next week. We play Tenerife on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember, but we're playing them.
I think it's Thursday.
Yeah, I think it is Thursday. So actually that might be a bit easier. We might have to record a Friday night podcast even.
Yes.
So we'll see.
Tenerife.
Okay, so we'll see how it works next week, but we'll definitely have a review pod then earlier in the week, as usual, the preview pod. Maybe we'll have to combine a live stream / preview. I'm sort of, I'm brainstorming live here. I might actually put that in our WhatsApp group later. I quite like that. I was even trying to think of a name for it, but it's not coming. So I'm going to shut up now and say thank you, Alex Ashmore.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to be back. And yeah, here's to 3 points and a good performance on the weekend for Malaga.
Vamos indeed. And thank you guys as always. Tell a friend, retweet us. Give us a 5-star review on your podcast player, as I'm gonna zone in on that one now, because that's the one apparently that gets the algorithms flowing. So we do see how many people listen to this. We do need more reviews there. Subscribe on YouTube, and if you're at La Rosaleda on the weekend, I hopefully see you there. Come, if you see me, say hello at Bar Hermanos Madrid. I will say hello back. I might even buy you a beer. There you go. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you soon. Adios and vamos Malaga.